awakens your.
Welcome to Aligned Energy with me, Manon, a place where ancient wisdom meets modern health and wellness. People are waking up, questioning who they are and why they're here. For high-performing women, the climb to success can leave them feeling stuck, depleted, or disconnected. But what if the answer isn't in doing more, but in aligning with your true essence? I'm Manon Deverich, and together with Dr. Pat, this show is about coming home to yourself unapologetically. Through education, ancient wisdom, and modern science, we explore energy as the foundation of healing and transformation. Join us now on Aligned Energy and step into the life you were meant to live. Aligned Energy starts now. Hello, welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Dr. Pat is off this month. I am joined by Dr. Amy Cyberlick, my good friend and erotic blueprint coaching peer. She's a naturopathic physician, an intimacy coach, a sexual wellness expert, and she is based near me in Olympia, Washington. And I'm so excited for the conversation today about women's health and what it means for pleasure to be medicine. Thank you for joining, Amy.
Thank you, Manon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one, everybody. So, Amy, you are a naturopathic doctor first and foremost, so trained in holistic root cause medicine, hormones, nervous system, lifestyle, and then you've layered on top of that intimacy and sexual wellness. And you have created quite a niche for yourself because so many people that are finding medical doctors for hormones and sexual dysfunction or things that they perceive as dysfunction and disconnection, they're going to a medical doctor and they're getting prescriptions which aren't necessarily actually helping them, but could potentially be causing them more issues and symptoms. So, what I really love and why I asked you to join me today is that you are really educating and revolutionizing the way that people are evaluating their sexual wellness and approaching this as a very integral part of their holistic well-being. And it just impacts every part of their life, not just in the bedroom.
That's right. Yeah, I'll tell you, as you said that, like I can feel the rising like fire, the passion here, because even the holistic medical doctors, the naturopaths, the functional medicine people, they're missing the sex part. They're missing the intimacy. They're missing this like reason to be. And so we pride ourselves on root cause medicine. And yet this part of medicine is grossly lacking in depth and breadth in a way that it really disservices, I'll say everybody, but we're talking about women here. It disservices women immensely by turning something natural and beautiful and that falls on a spectrum into a function or a dysfunction. You fit the boxes, you function. You don't fit the boxes, dysfunction, dis-ease. And that, I don't know if we swear here, but that's some BS. Okay, that's some
Oh, we
BS.
swear, yeah.
Oh, thank
Let it
goodness.
go.
All right. I do belong here. It gets so angry at these the way that these women in particular are treated. They're given a diagnosis, they're given a pill, and they're left to age. This is aging, this is normal aging, be on your way. And they're like, but I, and some of these medications they are giving, they cause a lot of damage, they cause a lot of harm, and they're definitely not treating the root cause.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think we all know people that have been impacted by that. And that's just the default. Just go to the person in the white coat and trust that they have all the answers. And I think a big part of our both of our undercurrents is to take your power back and do your own research and see what actually resonates and just really use some discernment around what's being shared and the risk versus rewards. And I think that there are so much more that's becoming more available through people like us that are stepping up and saying there are new ways, they're not even new, just there are other alternative ways that are becoming more mainstream now because people are trying them and realizing that there is more alignment um, and they work without all of these other, yeah.
I just want to give you an example. I was talking to a colleague who's a bestie, and she works with perimenopausal, menopausal women exclusively. Hormone replacement therapy is like her jam. And she was telling me about a patient she saw recently who went to the gynecologist because as women, we think that's who helps us manage
Mm,
our lady parts. No, no, no. They're for surgeries, they're for, pregnancy, maybe, but they are not trained just by nature to know about women's hormones and aging. Well, this woman went in for some vaginal dryness. She was given a diagnosis of lichen sclerosis, which is a pretty significant autoimmune disorder that can cause dryness and atrophy of the vaginal, vulvovaginal tissues to the point where like you lose tissue. And the prescription she was given was a high dose steroid cream
oh,
to just to use forever. Okay? She luckily, miraculously, because it's designed that way, she went to see my friend who's like, whoa, 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 they didn't test anything. And you know what also causes vaginal thinning and dryness? Low estrogen. So she got her off this corticosteroid cream, which will continue to thin the tissue, will continue to deteriorate and lose quality of life and pleasure and lubrication. Put her
mhm.
on some topical estradiol cream, which helps to plump up and moisturize the tissues. And she's doing great. And it isn't always this straightforward. This is a very function dysfunction. But the idea that we go to the gynecologist because that's the person who's supposed to be able to help us with the sexual parts of our life.
Yeah,
And then you leave with something that could totally shut down the sexual parts of your life for the rest of your life. It's
yeah.
crazy making.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing for a GP, but for an OB, you would think that
You
they
would
would
think.
have
You
special
would think.
training in that. And for something like estrogen, that seems like table stakes to
It
check.
seems like, and yet these are the people that we are I'll say conditioned to believe have the answers. And that's one of the biggest challenges is this idea that somebody outside of us knows more about our bodies, our pleasure, our desire than we do. And
Hmm.
sometimes that's a medical person. Sometimes we give that power to our partners.
Yeah,
In any case, either case, there's this, I'll call it a trend, but this annexation of our sexual power to other people. And I think
right.
the work that we do is reclaiming that, teaching women, helping women, supporting women, alerting women to the idea that they may have annexed all their power to somebody else and it's theirs for the taking.
Yeah.
Always has been.
Yeah. That's a theme here on this show is to just sit and connect with yourself and see if that's true for you.
Mm.
It might be true for somebody else. It's not to say it's not a truth somewhere out there, but we are all very unique in uh, our physiologies and our vessel. So let me ask you this. You talk about pleasure as a pathway to healing. Can you
Mhm.
explain how erotic energy actually impacts things like hormones and vitality and overall health?
Sure. You're gonna get the woo-woo sciencey version. This
Okay, good.
I don't know where you would like corroborate this, but this is the world according
I'm
to
here for it.
Dr. Amy. Cool. Interestingly, side note, there's a whole field of medicine called psychoneuroimmunoendocrinology. And what that means is the psyche, the psychology, the thinking, the thoughts directly have a path into the neurology, the immunology, the endocrinology, and vice versa. So this is mind body medicine, but there's actually like a field of study in science saying, if I'm dissatisfied, if I'm shut down, if I'm not feeling connected to myself, to my partner, if I'm not experiencing, joy in life and purpose and pleasure, the thoughts that reinforce that belief, that identity are going to impact the neurology. Dopamine levels are going to go down, or dopamine seeking behavior might go up, right? The serotonin's going to go down. These different neurochemicals are going to be affected by this pattern of thinking, right? That neurochemistry is going to influence how our immune system is functioning. That neurochemistry is going to influence how our endocrinology, how we're making hormones, how we're breaking down hormones. If I am giving up on life, I don't really need estrogen. I don't really need progesterone. I've decided that my creative, procreative powers are through, and my body is going to follow suit. And there is aging, right? There is aging. So this is like a bottom up too. As we age, the uterus, the ovaries, they're deteriorating in quality. We're not making as much estrogen, and that's affecting our mood. That's affecting our concentration, our purpose. Something interesting that not everyone realizes is that for women, our testosterone levels go down 50% over our lifetime. They peak in our mid 20s, and by around age 50, age 60, they've gone down 50%. Now, by volume, this is not as much as what happens in men, but with men, it's this very gentle, it's a low, slow curve. They don't have this massive, like, right? And testosterone, as we know, has a lot to do with feelings of purpose, concentration, focus, direction, all these things. So that's also happening at the same time, right? And it's going both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So what this has to do with pleasure, I mean, I think I sort of covered it, but I believe that pleasure, this procreative force, this is what this is the energy of creation, of life, of vitality. It's not a different flavor than your chi or your the vis, we call it in naturopathic medicine. This is your essence, your vital essence, your divine light. And we have options in how we direct, how we choose what we're doing in this life, right? And so people like you, like me, we choose to direct a lot of this into pleasure, into sex, into creation, creativity, not
Yes.
procreation, right? But we choose to channel it that way. Some people channel it into their work, some people channel it, but it's all flowing in all of us.
Right.
We forget.
Yeah, and I really love the concept that when you are reframing pleasure as medicine, it's not just having all of this sexual life force energy so that then you can feel alive and you can share it with your partner and share it with your work and share it with your passions and wherever you choose to. But conversely, if somebody is coming in with these symptoms of feeling like they're shut down and disconnected from their life force energy, or they're kind of in a slump, that we can come in, or you can come in and help them with the physiological components to help kind of jumpstart that again, right? So it's not like there's hope for these people that have just work themselves silly, right? And they're coming into midlife and their hormones are all a mess and they're totally stressed out from work. Their cortisol's through the roof. They're not having sex, or if they are, they're going through the motions. They're just maybe in a roommate situation, but this is where we can start to invite them back into even just the most what am I trying to say? Like just not even sex. I'm just talking about like just inviting them to bring pleasure into their body back through just feeling their hands touching themselves, or giving themselves a hug, or breathing into their belly or touching their face or just some of these pleasure first exercises that we invite them into, right? Just to start reconnecting their mind with their body, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is one of the vital things that we offer is the remembering that we come into this body in pleasure. I have a young child, and one of her greatest joys is to have her hair just like on her back. She'll just do this.
Mhm.
Right? We all used to have the capacity for that, right? And then someone told us, no, that's not appropriate. And that got programmed in. And now 40, 50, 60 years later, we've completely disconnected from our capacity to experience the simple pleasure of, you know, our skin, the sounds that we make. Children make the most joyful, ridiculous, awkward, weird. They don't even care until a parent, like me sometimes, is like, shh, you're being disrupted. Like, are you? Or is this an internalized children are meant to be seen and not heard, which is an experience that I have. And I'm going to tell you that translates into the bedroom. When we are taught as children that we need to be very quiet and conscientious, right? I'd say one of the first places for many women, let's speak about my own experience, is that quieting in the bedroom, that fear of revealing that pleasure or displeasure, right? Oh, that accidentally isn't working for me, right? All of the sounds in the bedroom can stop.
Mhm.
And I'll call it a slippery slope from the sound stopping to the pleasure stopping to that disconnection from the partner and from self.
Oh, that's such a good point. I can certainly resonate with that too in my experience. And I focus a lot on helping people make noise and sound again as a prerequisite to then speaking what they want more of or less of and asking for it and owning it. But you're naming the flip side of that, of how we got into that in the first place. I think that's so important to shine a light on so that people can be aware that that's happening and why and how they got into that situation in the first place, because there's so many people, I'll say, not just women, that aren't even making any noise. Like that was, I had my own experience of it, but certainly I didn't realize how prevalent it was. I never thought about it before. Like how many people just aren't going, like just the most basic
Mhm.
feedback and
Yeah.
expression. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like noise. Maybe I shouldn't have used the word noise. It translates, but it's not noise. I believe it's joy. It's the frequency of love. It's vibration. It's
It is
energy,
vibration.
right? So
Absolutely is
noise is
vibration.
shorthand, but it has this connotation like it's loud or something like that. But it's a way that we communicate. And what I've experienced, what I've noticed is if we aren't making the sounds, we're not vocalizing either. I want this. I don't want this. I like this. I love this.
Hmm.
I want to try something different. And I think there's a direct line between allowing those natural sounds of pleasure and displeasure to come forward and actually vocalizing, using your words to speak your pleasure and your displeasure. It's all connected. And so for some people can talk all day long and then they shut down the sounds, right? And
Yeah.
it's just a really interesting dynamic to notice if you're the type of person who is very quiet, where else are you holding back?
Oh, yes. And you can talk all day because you're in your mind,
Not
right?
your body or your
There's so
heart.
much disconnection between our mind and our body in this life. And I think that's the undercurrent of all of this is dropping back down into your heart, feeling. The invitation is to feel again, what are you feeling and noticing, and then to actually express.
Yeah.
whether that's making the noise and vibration or whether that's asking or giving feedback or inviting.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and I love this whole topic of pleasure as medicine because as we know too, that when we have these orgasmic states and we're releasing all of these, love and joy and happiness chemicals in our body, it actually is eliminating pain, right? It's shutting off the pain receptors. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but I mean, there are people that have a lot of pain, and if they can increase their orgasmicness and aliveness, or whatever you want to call it, increase your life force energy, that's going to change the way that you're feeling and moving in your body throughout the day, right?
Absolutely. Oxytocin is coming to mind, which is fascinating because some of us feel like oxytocin needs to be present for us to want to go into sex, intimate places, orgasm. And oxytocin is the chemical, that closeness, that nesting, that, it's released when we do those 20-second hugs or those, is it 7-second kisses? I can't remember. But, oxytocin, that really
I
young,
think it's technically a 6, and Jaya adds it an extra second for a 7.
perfect. Um, so oxytocin, right? It's also released in orgasmic states. So some people, there's an interesting, I've heard this say men have sex to connect, or no, men connect to have sex and women have connect to have sex, something like this. Anyway, it's like this opposite where our reasoning. But if you think about oxytocin, a lot of people feel, and this is, everyone gets their own way that they want to navigate this life, but that they need to be really connected in order to have sex, and some people want to have sex in order to feel connected. And all I'm trying to say with all this is that oxytocin is released in both directions. So if you've been trying to do it this way, maybe go nuts and try it the other way, right? I feel like I really need my partner to understand and validate. And this is important. I want everyone to feel safe, to feel like they are in connection and getting their desires met. And sometimes I think we get this. I have been in a place in my life where everything needed to be perfect in order to get to the point where I was willing and open to consider having sex. It's like, okay, that's one way we can navigate this. And I'll tell you, it wasn't really working well for me. Wasn't really working well for me.
Yeah. I feel like this is a really good place to insert that we don't need to rely on a partner for pleasure.
Mhm.
And that is another program that I feel like we all have taken on, that we do our best as coaches to make sure people are owning their own pleasure. It's our birthright. And there's no reason why we can't be creating all of this oxytocin and all of this juiciness ourselves and not having to wait until we have a partner, until that partner is ready to be reliant, etc. What would you say about that?
I mean, hallelujah. This is so something, a thread that keeps coming up and I haven't spoken it totally out loud is the choice in all of this. That we create our world, our lives through our choices. So we choose to open to love. We choose to close to love. We choose to lean in and try to connect. We choose to lean out. As children, we might not have felt like choice, but we chose to respond in the way that we may have done to those messages of quiet down, act like a lady. That was choice. It might not have felt like we had choice in that situation, but all of this is choice. And so what I work with people on is remembering the power we have to create, that we literally create our reality through our choices. And many of us have made a choice, and it might not have been intentional or like, from our highest self. Usually it's not, or we wouldn't even be talking about it. We've chosen to distance ourselves, from our bodies, from our pleasures, from our turn on. Or we may have chosen to gift all of this to someone else. whether they are worthy or not. We may have through our choices, and it might not have felt like choices, like cultural programming, societal programming, there's still choice happening. But when we're not paying attention, when we aren't moving in the direction of our desires, our vision, our goals in our life, we can get distracted by all this information, and suddenly we're on a path we never would have chosen for ourselves. But when we rewind, we look one choice at a time. I put myself on that path, and do I desire to stay there, or do I want to make a radical change, which starts with reclaiming my ownership in everything that got me to this place?
Mm. Hallelujah. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if you've watched many of these episodes of mine, but choice is also an undercurrent. Choosing what you don't change, you choose, and you are here to create the life of your dreams. No one else is going to do it. You have to choose you. This is how you choose you.
Mm.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, what we're going to do is take a little bit of a break. And when we get back, we're going to talk about. I'm curious to hear what some of the blocks or shadows are that people come in to work with you around, how they're maybe showing up in, shame or disconnection, and how you work with that, how we can weave in the erotic blueprints again, and just understanding how that's maybe transformed your own relationships, and how you weave that into your coaching. And then as we go to break, I'll say that I have a couple of events coming up that you can find at alignedenergyhealing.com/events. I have an erotic blueprint immersive, not an immersive, it's an integration day that's coming up April 22nd in Gig Harbor. I also have a full day spinal flow healing that you can sign up for that's going to be in Gig Harbor. And then I just announced a Sacred Sisterhood Circle on May 2nd with my friend Jenny. And it's going to fold in astrology and empowerment and the Phoenix transformation. So check that out. And then, Amy, would you like to pitch where people can find you?
Sure. Yeah. If anyone wants to hear more about my work or think about working with me, you can find me at dramycyberlik.com. I have a free hour-long coaching session available. I work with clients, patients. I work with clients all over the world, so I'm easy to find. There aren't a lot of Cyberliks out there. Check the show notes for the spelling. But yeah, dramycyberlik.com.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you after break. Are you feeling stuck, drained, or disconnected from your true self? Join Manon DeBerich and Dr. Pat on Aligned Energy, where ancient wisdom meets modern health and wellness. Tune in every second Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Discover how energy awareness and alignment can help you reclaim your power, vitality, and purpose. For more information, visit alignedenergyhealing.com and start your journey today.
Rethinking your purpose in life? Become a certified hypnotherapist and regressionist today. Bryn Blankenship is a renowned certified master hypnotherapist, international instructor, and author. In addition to her own show, Afterlife Teacher, Soul Lessons Bringing You Full Circle, Bryn is a popular radio show guest who speaks about her soul expression spiritual regression, her transformative method for finding and following your soul's guidance. For more information on her hypnoregression and afterlife regression certification programs, visit brynblankenship.com.
You ever feel it? That whisper just beneath the surface? A deeper part of you ready to rise? At Aligned Energy, we don't just inspire change, we embody transformation. This is where high-performing women come home to themselves, where the masks fall away and the real you steps forward, powerful, radiant, and fully alive. This is Manon, energy alchemist, transformation coach, and best-selling author, guiding women leaders from burnout to purpose. Together, we will reconnect with your innate wisdom to clear energetic blocks and activate your eros and life force, awakening the sensual, sovereign self within. For the wild-hearted, for the ones ready to get clear, stop performing and start becoming. This is your invitation to rise and step into your power, purpose, and possibility. Visit AlignedEnergyHealing.com to book your exploratory call or session today.
Have you ever faced a situation where you weren't quite sure how to handle it with poise, confidence, and grace? Of course you have. We all have. Well, tune in to the Change Mastery Show with me, John J. Murphy. Together, my co-host, Dr. Pat, and I will introduce you to a different way to think about change. Not as something to fear or resist, but as a gift. Join us the second Wednesday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Subscribe, share, and start your journey to mastery at johnjmurphy.org.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm here with Dr. Amy Cyberlick, erotic blueprint coach, intimacy coach, naturopathic doctor. And when we left off, we were starting to talk about a little bit about the kind of people who find their way to her for work. And so I'm just curious to hear from you, Amy. Like, tell me a little bit about the clients that you're working with how they're coming in and how you're able to help them, either singles or couples.
Yeah, I work with both. I have, it's interesting. People come to me because they want to have better sex. And that's what they say when they come in. They want to have better sex. And what is evolving, what's arising is really that they are so disconnected from themselves and their pleasure, and maybe even, or often even, emotional safety and connection and communication with their partner. So it's not totally about better sex. It's everything that creates the foundation to having emotional intimacy and physical intimacy. So they think they're coming in for sex, and really they're coming in to find themselves again, to find that connection to themselves, and learning some language on how to communicate. If I'm me and you're you, where do we meet? Because often in this society, in particular with heterosexual couples, women, we often come into sex at an early age to be the object of pleasure for a man. Sometimes, if we're lucky, if we have certain blueprints, certain bodies that respond well to sexual blueprint touch, talking about penetrative sex, easy, it's like, was it less than 30% of women have orgasm from penetrative sex alone? It's a pretty low number, and yet we've got this idea that we're all supposed to be able to do it. Clitoral orgasm, like some women have more access, some don't. And so what I'm insinuating is that if you come into the world with a body and an experience that's pretty aligned with the sexual blueprint, and you're matched with partners, which men often think that they are or are sexual blueprint, these women are usually pretty happy until maybe menopause, when hormones start to get in the way and the function goes away. But I'm talking about a small slice of the population, and yet I'm going to say it, most of us think this is where we're supposed to be. And yet, for myself in particular, this has never been my lived experience. The body that easily orgasms, it's just not my experience. And this is where the erotic blueprints were very expansive for me to understand. Oh, there's options here. This is only one of many ways that people relate to eroticism. So I have clients that come in and they think that they should be able to have sex like this.
Yeah, very goal-oriented, right?
Goal-oriented, penis and vagina intercourse. They're looking for erections. They're looking for ejaculation. They're looking for orgasms. They're looking for vaginal wetness, like the very clinical, functional sides of sex. And hallelujah for that part of sex. I'm not shaming this part at all. But what the opportunity here is to realize that sex encompasses so much more than that. So the clients that come in, they're struggling over here and they think they want this. And as we start to work together, we realize, oh, one of the partners is maybe an energetic blueprint. Their arousal is in that space between that, they don't even need to be touched to experience pleasure, but they're used to having their partner come in to fuck them, without any sort of warm up, without any sort of foreplay, and as I said, with choice, we're consenting to that because we think that we're supposed to do it that way because this is the only way we've ever known how to do it because this is blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
That's an example of clients that I work with. The sensual is another one. The sensual arousal in the five senses, the smells, the taste, the touch, the materials, right? And the shadow of that is that we are in our heads all the time, especially because of the setting, right? My partner's breath stinks. There's dirty laundry on the floor. What is that sound over there? And not being in the body, being in the mind. Well, this isn't a function problem. And I'll say it's not a problem. It's an opportunity to learn the self and to communicate our desires, our dislikes. But the patients I see, the clients, they think that they need a medication to increase their arousal. They're looking for a scream cream. They're looking for a pill. They're looking for something. It's like, no, love. Coming back to yourself and accepting and owning and claiming that I'm a person, I'm a sensual being that really needs turned on before I open up, right? Before the juices are flowing, and claiming and owning that and providing it for the self and then also expressing it. Like no one enters this temple without worshiping it first.
Oh, I love that.
You don't just get to barge into the temple and like take the sacrament. Oh no. Oh no, that's not how we work. And in the past, maybe that's what we allowed, right?
Yeah.
So there's a gap there that we work. You do this too. We work with our clients to identify the gap, where you are, where you want to be, and the barriers to getting there. In my work, we talk about problems. A problem is a goal with barriers in the way. And when we can identify and release the barriers, now we've got a project. Projects are fun, right? Problems feel like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to figure this out because of these barriers. You and I work to release the barriers, to let go of the obstacles, to find other ways so that that problem becomes a project. Right?
Oh, that's so clever. It's all about the reframe. It's amazing what you can do with a good reframe. That's
Right.
for
And
sure.
then an integration. So we're not constantly needing to reframe all the time.
Yeah. And I will say that that's what I really love about this work is integrating the accelerated evolution integration processes because they are such a perfect complement to this work, especially when people are coming in with resistance or triggers or things that they are just either, from experiencing something in their life earlier on, or maybe something I'll even dare say they came into this life with generationally that they don't have a direct experience with, but for some unknown reason there's some resistance or break. So there's so much trauma and shame, and then you add stress on top of that, and then that just begets, all kinds of imbalances, hormonal imbalances, mental imbalances, certainly emotional disconnection, right? So I personally find that when people are coming in, it's because they're two different blueprints. They think that there's some kind of a mismatch. They don't want to give up on the relationship, but they just can't seem to connect physically or maybe even emotionally at this point. And there gets to be a time where they're almost afraid to try because everything they've tried in the past hasn't worked. And then there's maybe some bad feelings and they're kind of afraid to do anything now. They're afraid to initiate for various reasons, and so maybe this is be a good time for you to breeze through what the five erotic blueprints are, and I will just start by saying there's a reason they're not called the sexual blueprints, right? They're the erotic blueprints because there's eroticism everywhere in
Mhm.
life, not just in intercourse,
Right.
right? Okay, so take it away.
Yeah, I think I'll just breeze over the couple I talked about. Sexual, I think your audience, they got it. This functioning, the penetration, the ejaculation, the goal of orgasm. Like that's a very sexual blueprint way to operate in the world. And this is how the medical system mostly views sex, is through a function dysfunction lens.
And
That's
the
the
media.
sexual. And the media, the pornography, the fucking, like very sexual blueprint. Um, the sensual we just touched on, it's eroticism of the five senses. People who really feel connected to the eroticism here, they're all about the foreplay, and maybe the penetration comes later, maybe it doesn't. But if they could just have that sensual stimulation in their body, they feel very connected to their eroticism. Something that I always love to talk about, which was kind of a turning point for me, is when we often talk about the sensual blueprint, we're talking about, the colors and the fabrics and the scented candles and the lighting. And my sensual is an animal. It's the smell of my partner. It's the taste, it's teeth, it's nails, it's hair. It's like the senses that animal has when they're, in the wild. And I believe that this is another version of the sensual blueprint that it's a little on the taboo side, right? It kind of plays into some of the other blueprints I'll talk about, but this can be an access point. And when I share this to people, I'll see some like, so, oh, and I'll say I discovered this part of it's eroticism, but I realized it with my child, not in a sexual way, but playing with my child. I play with her like she's a little wolf cub and I'm a wolf, right? Sniffing her and growling and right? And I realized how much joy we both experienced in that. And then it got me thinking, would it be crazy to do things like that in the bedroom? No, it would not be crazy. It would be brilliant. Right? So, but it came through in a non-sexual connotation, right? One of my best friends I don't know her sexually, but I know she's a sensual because I've watched her eat. She always uses her hands. She's like, she makes all these noises in response to the
Yeah.
food, and she eats a little bit like an animal, but also like a gourmet chef, right? Very sensual. Um, Energetic, we touched on just a hair, but this is people who find their arousal in the energy, the field between, the space between, the anticipation, the buildup. Tantra is a great practice of energetic eroticism with the eye gazing and the synchronized breathing and things like that, which don't even require touch. And the energetic person, they really often prefer a much slower pace, much slower pace, or it feels like a short circuiting of their nervous system. Their
Mhm.
field, right? Their energetic field, their nervous system. There's a lot of overlap here, right?
Yeah, they're hyper aware of
Hmm.
all of the energy around them.
Yeah. Yes.
You move very slowly as you approach. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a light and a dark side of this. I
Mm,
think the primal sensual is kind of a dark energetic, but
yeah.
I'll cop to being into like fairy smut and the vampires and the werewolves and anybody who loves a good slow burn and like that kind of dark, like they're watching, or do they want to eat me or do they want to fuck me? Like that's very dark, dark energetic.
Yeah.
And learn to switch into between them. I have a friend who talks about a game she plays with her partners called Pray or Pray. And there's like the prayerful, devotional, like lighter, energetic pray. And then there's like the I'm going to eat you pray. And that's kind of the light and the dark
I
energetic.
like it.
Mhm. And then we have kinky. Kinky is arousal, eroticism, turn on from what is taboo. And what's so interesting about taboo is it's completely subjective, right? For some people, saying sex on the video right now is so taboo. I can't believe she said fucking again, right? That can be taboo for somebody. And for other people, like, of course she said that. That's just like a part of language, right? But taboo in the kinky blueprint is very subjective. And so that might look like a psychological dark energetic is sort of like a psych kink. It just kind of depends. You might be playing in domination, submission, kind of these power dynamics, or it can be more like a physical. It might be impact play. It might be bondage. I guess that's more of a psychological, but however you play, right? The taboo is the turn on. And what often arises with taboo is a lot of shame.
Yeah.
Shame about that desire because it is considered taboo. And so we work with our clients to help to integrate, to identify and integrate that shame so that they can really surrender into whatever it is that is pleasurable for them, whether it's, impact, spanking, flogging, whipping, or if it's being a submissive or being a dominant, whatever that is, helping them to really be at choice in pursuit of pleasure.
Yeah.
And then,
power dynamics. Right.
and then the fifth one is shapeshifter. And this is someone who really just wants it all the blueprints. Something coming with shapeshifter is this idea that I'm too much. I want too much. I'm too hard to please. That can be a shadow of the shapeshifter because they have this massive capacity to receive pleasure in all these different languages. And why wouldn't you? This one's interesting for food. If you think about, like, sometimes I'll think about like the sexual blueprints pizza or a burger, delicious, but I don't want to just eat burgers. Sensual might be like Italian or Indian with all the spices and the flavors, very fragrant, right? Beautiful. And sometimes you want something a little earthier. Sometimes I think of energetic maybe as something more natural, right? The essence of the food, but that can get, I want to say boring because I think it's amazing, but it's about the variety. I don't know if kinky is like ghost peppers or something. Like, I think of like Gordon Ramsay and the chef is like, you will eat the fixed price or fixed course menu and you will like it. And the shapeshifter just wants like an all day, all you can eat buffet, and like every culture's represented and there's no rush to be anywhere, right?
Yes.
And you might call them gluttonous. You might call them irresponsible. There's this shame that can come. Insatiable, right? All of these are in a normal spectrum of eroticism. I believe all of this is sex, not just this, right? And one other thing I'd be remiss, something that people often come to me for is low libido. And I just want to say, we don't have a definition of normal libido. So to say that it's low or to say that it's high is very arbitrary. The normal range of healthy human sexuality starts at not wanting to have sex at all, asexual. It's rare without being, it's rare to occur naturally without having some sort of trauma or shame or injury or something on that. It's often, I'm not saying it doesn't occur, but it's not that common, but it is in the normal range all the way to having a very high sexual appetite. So anywhere in there is within the normal range of human sexuality. And to think that we need to be like over here wet and ready to fuck at the drop of a hat, that's cultural and social conditioning. And that's just not true. And it's a disservice that I think medical providers often add to this feeling like I'm broken if I'm not aroused and ready to have sex, like as soon as my partner is. And I think this is also an opportunity for us to reclaim our truth. This is how I work, right? This is how I operate. This is how I access my pleasure. And if you want to play, this is where you can meet me. But I'm done meeting you over there. You meet me here, right?
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think this is a good time just to mention too, I think a lot of women know more about estrogen and progesterone, but testosterone is starting to get more and more attention and focus. And what I heard was that medical doctors can only prescribe testosterone if you say, or that the coding is that it's impacting your relationship because you're not inclined to want to have sex, or you because you have a low libido, and that's the code is.
Let me clarify this for you, actually.
Okay.
The I taught doctors about this last year, in a continuing education presentation. This term changes all the time, but right now it's called female. The broad category is female sexual dysfunction, female FIASD, something arousal. And anyway, the point is it cannot be due to a relationship. The distress cannot be due to a relationship, or it wouldn't need a medical definition. Because by definition, if it's relationally caused, then this is not medical. This is where most of these conditions fall, by the way.
Mm.
The prescriptions for the drugs, and testosterone is interesting because I don't think you're actually allowed to. Testosterone prescribing in women is difficult and it varies by state. In Washington state, for example, I think physicians have more leeway, but you're more likely to get a good prescriber if you're working with a functional medicine provider or a naturopathic doctor. It's less common to get a testosterone prescription from a conventional physician, regardless of what's going on, unless you really do have like a low testosterone. A lot of them aren't even testing for it. But it has to be causing you distress on your own behalf and not because of a partner. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does now. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I think that's just case in point for how many stories are out there, and everybody's kind of a lot of experiences, a lot of stories written around it, a lot of people repeating them and maybe it getting morphed,
Yeah.
over time. But I think that's the net of this, and why I really wanted to bring it up is that if you're not even getting it tested, or if somebody is refusing to give it to you and you feel like you need it, like I think it's really time to find a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor, somebody that is specializing in this work, who will be able to give you the unique care that your body is needing. So, as we near a close here, I'm curious to hear from you what you feel becomes possible in someone's life beyond the bedroom when they reclaim their erotic energy.
Yeah. Everything. There's this quote that I like. It's how we do one thing is how we do everything. So when
Hmm.
we're showing up alive and communicating our desires and juicy with life in the bedroom, we're showing up like that, in traffic, we're showing up like that in our work with our children. Like this is life force essence we're talking about. We're calling it pleasure, we're calling it sex, we're calling it intimacy, and it is. And this is also how we be in the world. So whether we're with ourselves, whether we're with our intimate partners, whether we're in nature, everywhere, this translates into everything we do. What's possible is experiencing pleasure in every moment, no matter who is around you. That's what's possible.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I just want everybody to feel passion and aliveness and joy. I was certainly on the other opposite side of the spectrum of that, and having it back again, just you don't realize that you are missing it when you're disconnected from it. And I feel like to circle completely back, if we can just get back to a point of reconnecting with the feeling of pleasure and what pleases you and your body, even if it's just lightly touching your legs or your arms or breathing or just finding something soft to play with, or, you know, a little plaything on your face. Like those moments are balancing your blood work, you know, and creating all kinds of physiological benefits for you that you're going to be able to take with you out into the world. And I love anything that we can do through all of women's health and energy work to reclaim all of the resources that we have and be more intentional about not leaking them or giving them away. You know, it's kind of, Bruce Lipton talks about an energy checkbook, you know, that if we actually were recording debits and credits, we would be much more cognizant of how much energy we're giving away versus calling in. And I just really want for everybody's benefit to just be more conscientious about how they can activate life force energy and then be intentional with creating the life of their dreams. Any closing sentiment for you, Amy?
I love all of that. I just recently did a medicine journey, and what the truth of that is that I am love. I love and I am love. And at that essence, when we come back to who we are, that translates into how we be and what we do. And I think so often we just do, and we forget why. And we feel like this is what we have to do. And so when I work with my clients, I help them remember who they be, how they want to be, what world are they creating. This all ends, right? And I lost my father at age 65, and he was waiting to get to the point to be. And I was like, you don't get to wait. Like, be now, be here, be now. And part of that remembering is that this vessel loves to enjoy pleasure. And so that's some of the work we do, is to wake up the vessel to what it can be, what it can do, what it can experience with this energy of pleasure.
And guess what? That will make you live longer.
Oh, yeah.
So that you can experience more pleasure.
That's right.
Thank you, everybody, for joining today. If you're interested in my upcoming events, you can find them at alignedenergyhealing.com/events. I have an erotic blueprint integration and alignment on April 22nd. I have an aligned energy healing immersive coming up in May, and I have a Phoenix Talisman, a sacred sisterhood circle on Saturday, May 2nd, all in Gig Harbor. If you would like to reach out to Dr. Amy Cyberlick, you can find her at dramycyberlick.com. You can schedule a free coaching call. You can check out all of her goodies and offers at her website. And thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to Aligned Energy, where ancient wisdom meets modern health and wellness. This is Manon.
And I'm Dr. Pat.
Join us for more inspiration to step into your power and reconnect with your inner wisdom. Be sure to tune in every second Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. I invite you to like and subscribe to Aligned Energy with Manon on your favorite platform. And if you're ready to go deeper, visit alignedenergyhealing.com to book a healing or coaching session or schedule a complimentary discovery call. Until next time, stay aligned, stay empowered, and embrace the energy that is uniquely yours. See you next time.